Hey everyone, it's Michael and Dave here again. And I'm talking about marketing for coaches. And today we wanted to talk about LinkedIn, which is something I barely touch, and Dave's actually quite proficient with. So I'm going to be learning alongside you. What drew you to
Sure.
LinkedIn, Dave? Like, what do you find useful and helpful about it?
Thanks, Michael, for the question. Yeah, I personally like LinkedIn a fair bit, as much as I like any social media network. It's always this push pull of like, I enjoy part of it, and then part of it sometimes feels creepy, and I worry how much data I'm giving away. But what I
Yeah.
love about LinkedIn is that generally people's profiles are fairly up to date if they're active on it. And you can really see kind of where people are at in terms of what career they might be in, and what types of activity they already post. I see people who my friends or former colleagues or something, and I'll check out what they're up to. But one of the things I find is for me is people I meet in various groups or other places in real life that are interesting to me. I'll try and connect with them on LinkedIn to just kind of build my network of folks that I communicate with, especially if I meet somebody interesting and want to stay in touch.
That's great. So I know from being on your LinkedIn and using it with you, your
Yeah.
network is already pretty extensive. You talked about
Hmm.
communicating with them. How
Yeah.
do you communicate with the people that you're connected with on LinkedIn? What works for you?
Yeah. Well, I think at the most basic level, social media is about being social. So it's like commenting on somebody's post, liking their posts, letting them know that you took some value out of it. I think is a nice way to connect with people, even that aren't in your network. It's a good way to
Hmm.
somebody that you're following. It could be a thought leader type person or influencer, but it could be even your neighbor or somebody that is just doing something interesting. By commenting and being part of the discussion, you can get some really interesting feedback going, and people start sharing other resources or articles about whatever you're talking about, or just interacting and just feeling good about a post or some ideas that someone's sharing. So that's a good way to connect. I didn't mention it on the outset, but
Hmm.
one tip is maybe setting a little goal for yourself around how many folks you're adding to LinkedIn. You don't need to do too many at once, but I think when you attend an event or do some sort of uh, you meet up with some new people. I think trying to add one or two people a day for a while you're building your network is a good way to go. And make sure they feel like they're people you want to stay in touch with. I think I do have a
Right.
little barometer of like, if it's somebody I really feel some uh, connection to or congruence in what they're doing, I want to stay in touch with those folks. Like you,
Right.
I think we're
Yeah,
connected.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think so.
yeah,
Which was
I know
probably
so.
instigated by
Yeah,
you.
I'm sure that was me.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So and I'm curious. I mean, this sounds good, both in terms
Yeah.
of how you make the connections and then how you interact with them when they're made.
Hmm.
What differences and benefits to your business have you seen as a result of
Yeah.
making connections and being connected on LinkedIn?
Yeah. Great question. I think I would say just about it used to be every time, but I think most times, maybe every other time I put out a post or put out some things I'm thinking about. It's maybe not a
Hmm.
full post. Maybe it's just something that was interesting to me, or even sharing like somebody else's post that I think is pretty interesting. I tend to get some sort of email or a message or something from someone that wants to either talk about coaching or mentorship, or maybe even just like getting a little free advice about whatever I
Okay.
was talking about. So
Hmm.
fairly regularly at this point, it might be the size of my network, but
Nice.
I hear that I so like when my coaching business was slow in earlier times, I would uh, make a more regular effort to blog on LinkedIn, and I would just do a post there, and I would actually upload all the images. I would make the blog actually in LinkedIn. I wouldn't. That's kind of important. A lot of the social networks, they want you to stay in the network itself rather than
Okay.
posting like a link and saying go to my blog. I don't know
Hmm.
how the algorithms treat that these days, but in back when I was doing more posting, that's how I did it. So yeah,
Yeah.
so those are some tips for me. Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so tell me if I've got this right, because I'm
Hmm.
legitimately ignorant about this, but it
Yeah,
sounds
sure.
like being growing your network and interacting with the people on it and the people you meet through it,
Mhm.
you're generating, I guess, interest and
Yeah.
enthusiasm for your work. And some of those connections, some of those conversations that start on LinkedIn move into email, and maybe you have some calls with them and things like
Mhm.
that. And potentially some of those people become clients or know people that become clients. Is that generally
Yeah.
how it works?
Yeah, I would say so. I think
Okay.
it's, maybe the simplest way to phrase it is just you become top of mind.
Mm,
People, we're all busy. We all have a million things going on. And then the internet, right? Or there's just distractions everywhere. And I think sometimes for me, some of the, like, I'll post something and then I'll get a completely unrelated message saying, oh, you know what? I haven't thought of you in a long time and I'd really love to talk to you about XYZ.
got
And,
it.
and it's, that, so I think just becoming, it just reminds people you exist and that you're
Mhm.
out there. And so you're sort of inspiring me. I feel like, oh, I should probably go to LinkedIn today and say a few more things because,
Yeah,
but I
I
think
should
that's,
probably do the same.
I think what I'd say too on that though is it doesn't have to be like a daily thing. I think it's,
Right.
once a week, once every 2 weeks,
Mhm.
checking in can be just plenty, where it feels like sometimes social media feels like a daily pace. And I don't think necessarily for coaches that are out there trying to market their business, it needs to be a daily interaction. I think you can be a little more methodical and kind of find the right groove for it. So
Okay. So maybe if someone wants to take it on as a practice,
yeah.
make connections on a daily
Hmm.
basis, but not necessarily broadcasting things publicly on a daily basis. It doesn't have to be
Right.
that
Yeah.
involved. Okay.
Yeah, I think a good catch there. And I think it's like, when you're starting out, it's like you want to build a network, and you might
Mhm.
even just, grab a list or look at your email contacts of folks that you're interacting with and just start adding them once, or, one or two a day is what I was kind of imagining. But yeah, then I think as you start posting, yeah, you can sort of dial it back. So
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay, thanks,
good.
Dave. That's pretty
Yeah,
comprehensive. Has me
yeah.
interested in maybe dipping
Uh,
my toe in the
uh-oh.
water.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, God
Well,
help us all.
LinkedIn can
Any
just send their checks to me.
right.
No.
As will I.
Yeah.
Anything else that I didn't cover that you think it's important to share with people about LinkedIn?
Well, I think sometimes I get asked about like hashtags on LinkedIn, and
Right.
personally, I don't think they're necessary for an individual, maybe for a
Hmm.
business, but I feel like they can look a little spammy, and that it's kind of like, to me, part of the thing that's, I think, more enticing about social media is when you feel like you're getting an authentic connection with somebody that really is just talking to their network. So I would stay away from hashtags personally. I do think video is always great if you're up
Hmm.
for it. Michael and I are new video advocates these days. We're trying to do more video. So
We're doing
um,
it right this minute.
exactly. So that's I think a good thing to do there. And otherwise, it is an ad platform too, and I think the advertising is starting to get more accessible, meaning less expensive, I think, for
Hmm.
individuals. But I haven't investigated that fully, and I haven't done advertising in a long time on LinkedIn. So everything I'm
Okay.
talking about is organic right now. So,
Yeah.
but I
I
do
have
think,
actually
yeah,
done a little bit of advertising
okay,
on LinkedIn as part of a job I had,
hmm,
independent of coaching. It was far clunkier than Facebook and
right,
far more accessible, and they really tried to push the idea that it was more expensive because you could target people at the C-suite and
yeah,
real
right,
high
hmm,
earners and
hmm,
stuff like that. I saw very, very little return on
hmm,
investment in
hmm,
terms of our engagement with LinkedIn advertising. I think for coaches
yeah,
and independent business owners, probably far better just using their profiles as you talked
right,
about.
right. I think so, especially for starting out. I think
Hmm.
it's always good to see what changes with the ad programs and these social networks as they go. But the targeting always seems great, but then it's like there's still a cold audience at the end of the day. They don't know you.
Yeah.
And I think we've talked about before with coaching, it's word of mouth and people having a feel for you before you start having a conversation with them is so important, because otherwise, they're trusting you with their life.
Yeah.
So random people on social media are probably not, random ads are probably not the way you build your coaching business per se.
Yeah, one thing I'd encourage everyone, coaches and other people too, to think about when it comes to paid social media advertising is, when was the last time you actually engaged with
Right.
paid social media content? I know for me
Yeah.
the number is very, very low,
Yeah.
um and not generally related to coaching or education or anything like that. I have
Yeah.
other
Right.
ways of sort of learning what I'm interested in. So,
True.
you know,
Totally
I
agree.
think that's a good way to check of if, is this a worthwhile thing? Like, would
Hmm.
I as a person be interested in this? How often do I engage with something like this?
Totally agree with that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Great for a band or maybe a new
Yep.
movie that's coming out, but
Hmm.
probably not for who's going to coach your heart to your next
Yeah,
adventure.
yeah, exactly. With a movie, with a song, you can kind
Yeah.
of get an impression of it like this,
Yeah.
and you know, social media is great for that. A connection
Hmm.
with a professional, that takes a lot more time.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah.